Jai Shri Ram. break of this world's chain. We adore thee, whom all men love. Spotless, taking man's form. O purifier, thou art above the guna three. Knowledge divine, not flesh. Thou whom the cosmos wears, a diamond at its heart. Let us look deep in thine eyes. They are bright with the wisdom of God, that can wake us from mild start. Let us hold fast to thy feet, treading the waves of the world to safety. O drunk with love, God dark in love, in thee all parts of all yogas meet. Lord of the world, thou art ours, who art born a child of our time, easy of access to us. O Master, if we take and you hold upon God in our prayer, it is by thy grace alone, since all thy austerities were practiced for our sake. How great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. Perfect, whom lust could not taint, nor passion, nor gold drawn in. O Master of all who renounce, fill our hearts full of love for thee. Thou hast finished with fear and with doubt, standing firm in the vision of God, refuge to all who have cast fame, fortune, and friends away. Without question thou settest us, and the world's great sea in its wrath seems struck to the puddle that fills a footprint in the clay. Speech cannot hold thee, nor mine, yet without thee we think not, nor speak. Lord, who art partial to none, we are equal before thy sight. Take away our pain. We salute thee, though we are blind. Come to the heart's black cave and illumine, thou light of the light.
So Om Sthapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Sarupine Avatara Varishthayo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Today is a blessed day, Swami birthday of Swami Advaitananda, Buddha Gopal Maharaj. Sri Ramakrishna came and brought his companions to fulfill his mission for the world. And each one played their role, some in a prominent way and some in a side scene. But each has its own place and importance and also a contribution which can help humanity to grow in the spiritual life. We find that Swami Advaitananda, we don't have so-called, there is no glamour or so-called no external acquaintance with the people where he has depicted his extraordinary intelligence and other things, but a wonderful spiritual life in touch of Sri Ramakrishna, and they come all the time with the incarnations. So here we find that the scriptures say, we are reading today a short reading from God Lived With Them by Swami Chetanananda, the life of Advaitananda. The scriptures say, tormented by three kinds of suffering, that is physical, mental and terrestrial or supernatural, people inquire about religion as an antidote of suffering. Bliss is inherent in every being, therefore they cannot bear pain for its foreign to their true nature. However, sometimes grief plays an important role in human life. It makes people understand the impermanency of the world. Gopal Chandra Ghosh was his early name, born in Calcutta. It's called Sithi. He lost his wife when he was 55 years of age. So naturally, he was broken-hearted, unable to bear his overwhelming grief. And then this Gopal went to a friend, Dr. Mahendra Pal, for consolation. And Mahendra, he himself was a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. He suggested Gopal to meet the master at Dakshineshwar, thinking that that holy company might assuage his grief sometimes. So in March or April of 1884, Mahendra accompanied this Gopal, who has lost his wife, on a visit there. And Mahendra told the master about the friend's condition. Generally, Ramakrishna felt an affinity with his disciples at the very first sight, but he treated Gopal like a stranger. Gopal also did not see anything extraordinary about the master. After returning home, still deeply depressed, Gopal decided not to visit Ramakrishna anymore. Again, Mahendra told Gopal, look, holy people sometimes do not like to be caught easily. They test our sincerity through indifference. Please visit the master again. The second time, Gopal went to Dakshineshwar, and Ramakrishna, like good physician, gave him an infallible antidote for his grief. Speaking of God, he lifted Gopal's mind, uprooting his worldly ties and attachments. Gopal learned from the master that the world is unreal, like water in a mirage, and that dispassion is the only medicine which will counteract this grip of delusion. The master's words on the impermanency of the world appealed to Gopal and made a lasting impression on his mind. He returned home and seriously began to think about renouncing the world in search of God. He was attracted to the master and soon returned to Dakshineshwar And Gopal later narrated what happened after his third visit. He said, "The master possessed me. I would think of him day and night. The pang of separation from the master gave me chest pain. No matter how hard I tried, I could not forget his face." That came at the third meeting with Sri Ramakrishna. And Gopal was born in Calcutta, near Calcutta, Rajpur, in 24 Parganas. As he had family ties, after the death of his wife, Gopal moved from where he was living to Dakshineshwar to serve the master. Ramakrishna accepted Gopal as his disciple and would address him as Elder Gopal or Overseer. The other disciple called Gopal Da, Gopal the elder brother, since he was 8 years older than Ramakrishna himself. The master introduced him to the Holy Mother, who needed a person who could shop and run errands for the mother. Ramakrishna praised Gopal's managerial capacity in household affairs, and then he also found joy in serving mother. And his neatness and cleanliness was very appreciative, and Ramakrishna appreciated his temperament also. It is not known whether Elder Gopal wanted to go to pilgrimage, and perhaps he gradually became closer to the master and decided to serve him instead of going to a pilgrimage. In spite of his age, Gopal tried to keep the same pace as the other young disciples. Naren would sing to the accompaniment of the tanpura in a stringed instrument in the master's room, and then Gopal, this Gopalda or Buddha Gopal, would play the tabla, the drums. As a newcomer, he was absorbing Sri Ramakrishna's teachings and way of life. One day Mahendra Pal came to visit Gopal and master in Dakshineshwar. They left his room through the western door and stepped onto the garden path. They saw a woman sweeper coming towards them, carrying on her head a tub of excrement from the privy, about 5 or 6 years. When the master saw her, he prostrated before her, stretching fully on the ground, saying, "Mother, who can do this work except you?" In this way, the master taught his devotees not to look down upon anybody. Sometimes in 1885, Gopal felt the need of initiation from the master, but because of his he was bashful, could not ask for it in front of others. Moreover, Ramakrishna did not give any formal initiation to his disciples. He would transmit spiritual power to them in other ways, such as touching them or writing some mantra on the tongue, or whispering a mantra in the ear, or singing some song, or just through a glance. Latu described the following incident in this way. Once, before the noon meal, the master was walking alone in the temple garden of Dakshineshwar. Then Gopalda took the opportunity to express his desire for initiation to the master. Latu says, "I saw from a distance that Gopalda knelt down on the ground and holding the feet of the master began to cry. The master lifted him up from the ground holding his arm. Then Gopalda was still crying profusely. When the master said to him, 'I didn't hear,' what the master said to him, 'I did not hear,' means that Latu Maharaj did not hear. But she said, 'Since that time I have noticed Gopalda chanting God's name every evening in front of the Krishna temple.' Gopal acted as Holy Mother's messenger. He was free with Gopalda, and she did not cover her face with the veil in front of him. The devotee and the disciple would immediately leave the room when Holy Mother would bring the food. The master took his meals twice a day a little before midday and shortly after sundown. Holy Mother would wait in his room until he had finished his meal. On 11 December 1885, Ramakrishna moved to Kashipur Garden House, and Gopal was responsible for giving medicine to the master. One day, master noticed that the time for it taking medicine had passed, so he asked another disciple, "Where is this old man?" When the master learned that Gopal was sleeping, then Ramakrishna said joyfully, "Oh, how many sleepless nights he has passed. Let him sleep. Please don't call him. You had better give me the medicine today." One day when Gopal touched the sore, Ramakrishna's sore, of cancerous sore, used to wash daily clean and with a special solution, and which is considered to be antiseptic. And one day when Gopal touched the sore, the master cried out with pain, and Gopal said, "Sir, what can I do? If I wash you, you will be getting pain, so let me stop it." Then Ramakrishna said, No, you go on washing. Look, I have no more pain." The master replied as he withdrew his mind from that spot, and Gopal was then able to wash the area carefully, and the master remained silent and cheerful. Gopal, when one day Holy Mother recalled one significant incident that took place when the master was lying in Kashipur. A number of disciples, including Gopal, was taking turns attending to the needs of Ramakrishna. But one day, instead of serving the master, Gopal went off somewhere to meditate. And then he meditated for a long time. When Girish Babu heard about this, Girish remarked, "The one upon whom Gopal is meditating with closed eyes is suffering on a sick bed, and fancy he is meditating upon him." Gopal was sent for. When he arrived, the master asked him to stroke his legs. Then he said to Gopal, "Do you think I am asking you to stroke my legs because they are aching? Oh no! In your previous births, you did many virtuous acts. Therefore, I am accepting your service." These are great lessons to think about. We also think that we are doing work in our life. We feel that we are troubled, too much work for the center or ashram or this and that. It is serving Thakur. If it is that, it is giving an opportunity to think. So what a great attitude. And we meditate. Let's say you are meditating, but you see whom you are meditating, he needs some service. So when every year during some Makar Sankranti, many visitors come, monks come, pilgrimage to Ganga Sagar, and the confluence of Ganga and Bay of Bengal, holy bath. And they go to Jagannath Ghat, Calcutta, and Gopal have little money and wanted to acquire many good virtues, and so he had 12 pieces of cloth and 12 rosaries he purchased in Rudraksha. His idea was to distribute among the sadhus. And when the master heard about it, he said to Gopal, "You will attain 1,000 times more virtue if you present these ochre clothes and rosaries to my children rather than giving them to the monks in the Jagannath Ghat. Where else will you find such all-renouncing monks? Each of them is equal to 1,000 of monks." This changed Gopal's mind. And then on Tuesday, January 12, 1886, Gopal gave the ochre cloth and rosaries to the master, who touched them and sanctified them with the mantram. He himself then distributed them amongst his young disciples who will be the future message bearer of him. On the evening of 6th May 1886, Naren and Gopal were meditating in a room, and that story, Narendra felt as if a lamp had begun to burn behind his head. The light grew more and more intense until it seemed that the lamp itself burst. Narendra went into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. When after a while he became partly aware of his surroundings, he felt that he had somehow lost his body and was nothing but a head. And he cried out, "Where is my body?" he shouted. Surprised, Gopal came near him. "Where is my body?" Narendra repeated, touching him. Gopal said, "It is here. Naren, can't you feel it?" But Naren continued to cry out for his body until Gopal alarmed and ran to the master what had happened. Ramakrishna did not seem at all surprised, and he said, "Let him, Miss Naren, stay like that for a while." And he said calmly, "He has been bothering me long enough to put him into that state of samadhi." Then he started austerity. Ramakrishna passed away. Advaitananda lived in a while at the Baranagar monastery. He helped his brother monks with household works and played tabla when Vivekananda used to sing. One night when Advaitananda went to the bathroom, Akhandananda replaced his pillow with a brick. They used to make some fun story, and put a brick instead of the pillow taking out. When Advaitananda returned, he discovered his brick pillow. He smiled and said to Akhandananda, "Ganga, I know you have done this mischief. Brother, I shall use your precious gift tonight as my pillow." And Akhandananda was very touched. Immediately he threw away the brick and brought back his pillow. With an apology, Akhandananda said, "Brother, you are a real monk, free from anger and ego." In September 1895, in a Birajananda Swami reminiscences, that he wants to lead Advaitananda return to Benaras. He decided to spend the remaining part of his life in this abode of Lord Shiva. And Swami Birajananda, a disciple of Vivekananda, left his account of Advaitananda like this, that it says, in September 1895, Advaitananda said, "I stopped at Varanasi on my way to Vrindavan and stayed with Gopalda at Bansi Datta's house." Sorry, it is Birajananda reminiscing. His room was small but neat and clean. He was very methodical, economical. Very early in the morning he used to get up, and even in the cold water he used to take a bath in the Ganga, etc. And he says that he was leading tremendous austere life in the Varanasi itself. Advaitananda passed 5 years in Varanasi practicing austerities, forgetting the mundane world. He took care of whatever came to Varanasi and would show the person the temple of the city of light. In spite of his old age and health, he will take the devotees to go round and show them the glory of the Benaras. In 1897, Swami Vivekananda returned from the West and established Ramakrishna Mission. He wanted to do some philanthropic work in the regeneration of India's poor, and Saint Advaitananda was called to come to Belur Mott, and Advaitananda responded to his call. He left Varanasi, went to Alambazar first, where the monastery had been moved in 1892, and early part of 1898, a plot of land was purchased at Belur Mott Bank, and gradually Advaitananda was entrusted to make the land ready for construction. The site had previously been used as a dock for repairing boats and steamers, and the landscape was uneven. So that was a tremendous task that Advaitananda Swami has taken up in his head to do the menial work. Although he was the oldest in the group, in carrying out responsibility, he was second to none. Early in the morning, after breakfast, he would go to the new plot, engage the Santal tribal laborers who had been hired to level the ground, and he scolded them if they found any dereliction on duty. Sometimes Vivekananda would visit the grounds and talk to the poor laborers. He loved to hear the stories of their lives and hardships. Sometimes he would arrange a feast for them. Once their leader said to Swami Vivekananda, "Oh dear Swami, don't come to us when we work. Our work stops when we talk to you," and later the old father, that is Advaitananda, started scolding us. Swamiji was touched by their words. Then he said, No, he will not say anything. Tell me something about your part in the country. So he was doing his duty and very seriously. Pioneering work is also always difficult. Advaitananda worked until noon, and then he took his bath in the Ganga. Sitting under a tree, he ate his lunch, and then gradually he started, after the dressed land, some agricultural, vegetable garden, dairy farm, etc. for the mott. Advaitananda recalled about the early days. Without Gopalda, the monks of Belur Math would not have had vegetables along with their rice. He worked so hard to produce various kinds of vegetables in the monastery garden. After Vivekananda passed away, the banner of Sri Ramakrishna was carried by his other disciples. They shaped their lives according to the spiritual ideals of the Master. They also helped others to put these ideals into practice for their physical, mental and spiritual advancement. There is a saying, an organization succeeds not because it is big or because it is long established, but because there are people in it who live it, sleep it, dream it, and build it, and for the future of it. Even in his old age, he would get up in the early morning, sit for meditation and japam. He suffered from rheumatic pain. So, according to the doctor's instruction, he would do regular exercise, etc. Then he would go to the shrine to bow down to Sri Ramakrishna and pray, "Master, I am doing exercise for this body. I have done enough, now release me." Afterwards, he would supervise the activities of the monastery. Swami Premananda would do the ritualistic worship in the shrine. When he went to Calcutta for this work, Advaitananda would perform the ritual also. Advaitananda loved to do his own work. If anyone offered any personal service, he would decline. His attitude was that a monk should be self-reliant, depending only on God and no one else. He was fond of music and would play tabla, the drum, when the brothers sang devotional songs. Sometimes when he had a little leisure, he would copy the scriptures in his beautiful handwriting. He used to chant the Bhagavad Gita every day. For his daily chanting, he copied 5 different Gitas. Perhaps he had no money to buy a book. Now, in late 1909, Advaitananda, an all-renouncing sannyasin of the Master, made himself ready to depart from this world. He had suffered from stomach trouble off and on, and towards the end, he had fever. Dr. Mukhopadhyay of Ghushuri, Howrah, was his physician. All the monks served their old brother with loving care. One day, the Swami stood in front of Sri Ramakrishna's picture and prayed, "Master, please release me from this pain." The Master soon answered the prayer, probably of his disciple. Swami Premananda later said, quote, "Before his death, Gopaldas saw the Master carrying a mace on his shoulder. He then asked Master, 'Why are you carrying the mace on your shoulder?' The Master replied, 'I am Gadadhar,' literally the upholder of the mace, an epithet of Lord Vishnu. Gadadhar was also Sri Ramakrishna's childhood name. In this age, I shall rebuild after destroying everything." Here is the comment, no? Gopalda, he said that the master soon answered it, and Swami Premananda said, before his death, Gopalda saw a mystic vision, the master carrying a mace on his shoulder. And then he asked then, Master, why are you carrying this? And Ramakrishna's answer was there, that I, Gadadhar, was also. He said that in this age, I shall rebuild after destroying everything. That's a very prophetic statement, to rebuild and to do it again. Truly, Sri Ramakrishna was born in this modern time to destroy doubts and delusion from the mind of the people. Advaitananda passed away at 4:15 p.m. on Tuesday, the 28th December 1909. Until the end, he was fully conscious, chanting the name of Sri Ramakrishna. As soon as Premananda put a little charanamrita, sanctified water, in his mouth, he breathed his last. Premananda wrote a vivid account of his death in a letter. Quote, Gopalda had gone to the abode of the master. He had a little fever, and nobody realized that he would leave the body by so soon. During his last moments, his face looked so beautiful. It is a wonderful play of the master's devotee. At that time, Dr. Motilal Mukhopadhyay was present. Gopalda drank a little lemon juice and milk. He greeted Moti Babu, the doctor. Smilingly, he left the body. He was then 81. His body was cremated at Balloon Mott on the bank of the Ganges. Swami Adbhutananda started his spiritual journey late, but his sincerity and steadfast devotion to the Master brought fulfillment at the end of his life. Sri Ramakrishna made him a role model for elderly seekers of God. He will be remembered by the Ramakrishna order for his cheerful manner and methodical ways, his self-reliance, his untiring zeal in every work he undertook, and his implicit devotion to the Master and his cause. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace.